You're about to see 3 of the most mind-blowing conspiracy theories in podcast history, all of which come from the Joe Rogan Experience. We'll begin with one of the most infamous Joe Rogan episodes ever, number 1255, wherein Alex Jones reveals his theories about Nazis and their involvement with interdimensional aliens.
Tell me how the connection between aliens and the Nazis took place. When did all this start?
Let me begin. This is really, I'm telling you, Joe, this is a real deal.
I believe you.
This is, you ask, who are they? It's people who are psychically, genetically available to interface in this incredibly diverse universe with all these dimensions above and below and all around us with consciousnesses. And the truth is, no energy is ever destroyed. It all continues on. The truth is, our bodies, this is a fact, are a communal hive organism of all of our ancestors and all of their race memories, but not in just some compressed epigenetic system. It's beyond that. It's an electrochemical antenna, they've proven this, that connects to higher and lower dimensions. So our bodysuit, because our predecessors wouldn't put us in a position without giving us a bodysuit that is them. Our families are loving us. They're holding us. They're wrapped all around us. Their strength, their will, their bad, their good, their sins, the good things they did, the battles they won, the battles they lost, the woman they loved, the man they loved. It's all in us, all these people. It's why we're able to look into so many things and have so many different experiences. And so all the shaman, all the ancient religions, everybody says there are the good ones and there are the bad ones, and people are interfacing. So you say, where does it begin? From the Tibetans to the Mesoamericans to the Egyptians to the Druids to every ancient society describes the same thing. There are bad things that look like elves that have horns when they show you who they really are, and there are good things, but they don't contact you unless you contact them, and then they're almost not even concerned with what you're doing. I never bought into this, looked into it. But then I began to think about, what did I hear when I was a kid? What did I see? What was coming out in government documents? What was being admitted? When I read all these books about World War II and the Nazis and Hitler obsessed with the Dalai Lama and the Tibetans and what they were able to do without drugs to interface with this, and all the rituals they would do and how they would believe that beyond the ether, like at Skull and Bones, it's a German death cult, they do rituals and take drugs to talk to the goddesses. Well, they're just appearing as, sexy, beautiful women. It's whatever you want as these spirit guides, because lower entities will come in and violate your free will. God and his angels, which are below him, will not get involved in your everyday life. They will not manipulate your free will unless you ask them in. But then the devil masquerades as an angel of light. So we're on this planet, the third dimension, which is a launch pad to all the other dimensions below and above. The third dimension, all the mathematics shows, is the primal sea of where all this happens. And the Earth's like an egg, and we've got all this potentiality. And God will send out a transmission for a larger plan, but evil's willing to come in. And what does it say? Demoralize, get rid of children, don't have kids. Humans are bad. We'll be better once you're all gone. And it's because it's their operational mission for whatever reason that we'll understand later what's going on. So the Nazis, if you get into deep literature, they believed they were basically seancing and being possessed by entities that, it was before the Nazis. For whatever reason, it was the Germans that this happened to, and the Swiss. Like, they didn't discover LSD in the 30s. These people were running the psychology departments. They were interfacing with the occult. They were involved in all this crazy stuff, and it was all about their power and how great they were going to be. And the Germans were seduced. And they were seduced because they had high IQs, but more than that, they were psychically connected to each other and would work like robots.
On episode number 1928, Jimmy Corsetti shares a theory with thorough evidence about the lost city of Atlantis.
So, the Richat structure, I was on your show a little over a year ago and shared some details about it. To people who aren't aware, there's a location in the Western Sahara Desert of Mauritania called the Richat structure. It's also commonly referred to as the Eye of the Sahara. It is a site that most people have never seen or heard of before, which is truly peculiar because it's so spectacular. It's a site that astronauts typically use to reference from space. It is a geological feature that is said to be volcanic in nature. And what's so spectacular about this is that it just so happens to match more than a dozen striking similarities to what Plato had described as the lost ancient capital city of Atlantis.
I almost feel like we're not going to do your video justice by just talking about it, because the video's so good and you go into so many details. By the end of it, my jaw was dropped. I was like, holy shit, like, from what you had the last time you were on the podcast to what you put out now, it's even more compelling.
I appreciate you saying that. And I guess to anyone that wants to check it out, I have a YouTube channel called Bright Insight. It's right at the top of the page, and it says Lost Ancient Roman Map has Atlantis and Sahara Africa.
There's so many things, like the where the water flows to the south, where there's clear evidence of water erosion that took place after the volcano. There's so much that points to that possibly being Atlantis.
It's spectacular. So just to run down real quick, Plato had described Atlantis as being the capital. Let me just mention that because it was an empire said to be made up of 10 kingdoms. And what I'm focusing on is the lost capital city, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 of water, 2 of land, which matches the Richat structure. It also was said to have an opening to the sea at the south, and if you look at it from satellite imagery, you can clearly see that water had ran through it. And furthermore, it was said to have mountains to the north, and you just so happen to have mountains called the Atlas mountain chain, which Atlas was said to be the very first king of Atlantis. And what's interesting is that the very first known king of Mauritania, which is where the Richat structure is located, is also... their very first known king was also named Atlas. And though I'm not saying that that's the same individual, but what we do today is we pass down names, right? Like people like, oh, my dad's name's John, and so is my son. And so it's another striking similarity, but it goes further than that. Like there's geological similarities, such as the fact that Atlantis was said to be made up of red, black, and white color stone, which is another similarity you see at the Richat structure. It was said to have an abundance of gold and that the outer walls were lined with it. And it turns out that Mauritania is loaded with gold, and not only that, the richest person ever known to exist in all of mankind is Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, which consisted partly of modern-day Mauritania. And he was so rich from gold that he would be richer than Elon Musk and like Bezos combined almost. Like many unfathomable amount of billions of dollars. So that's another similarity.
What year was this?
Oh, this is 1300s or 1400s?
There he is.
Yeah, there we are. 1312, 1337.
What a great name, too. Mansa Musa.
But the similarities don't end there. There was said to be an abundance of elephants, which is one reason why to suggest that Atlantis would have been in Africa is because, well, besides the fact that elephants are known to be throughout Africa, they used to be in Mauritania. They're unfortunately pretty much extinct there today. But another little detail that most people aren't aware of, because they think of Atlantis like, oh, it must be at the bottom of the ocean. Well, that's not exactly how Plato worded it. He did describe that the aftermath of Atlantis followed a catastrophic event involving water, is that what was left of Atlantis was reeds of grass and a shoal of mud that prevented ships from navigating to and from. And what people don't realize is that Sahara Africa, up until about 4,500 to 5,000 years ago, was totally green. It was tropical. It had the largest network, or one of the largest networks of rivers ever known to exist. It had the largest freshwater lake ever known to exist, which is Mega Lake Chad, which, just to put this into perspective, it is, if you take all the North American Great Lakes combined, that's 94,000 square miles of surface area, whereas Mega Lake Chad was 139,000.
During one of the most hilarious podcasts from the Joe Rogan Fight Companion, Eddie Bravo attempts to explain why he believes space to be fake. I'll leave you guys with the uncut clip.
Few of it.
The goal has always been for the most powerful emperors is a one world government. They always wanted a one world government. All the Roman emperors, they try to figure out, they try to do different combinations. How about and they would fall, and a new emperor would come and go, you know what? I'm going to fucking rule
world
the world
domination, in other words. Aztecs.
I'm not going to let my soldiers get married. That way we'll have a stronger army. They have different philosophies. Everyone believed different shit. But they all wanted a one world government. There's no way to have a fucking one world government. Nobody's into that shit.
Right.
Not even other rulers from small countries are like, one world government, that's gonna put me out of a job. Fuck your one world government. People that don't know shit about politics don't want a one world government. Sure. There's no way you're gonna sell a one world government. It's impossible. The only way to make a one world government work is to have the people embrace it. They have to want it, because nobody wants it. So the trick is to make people want it, to embrace it. There's only one way.
I gotta pee.
There's only one way.
Joe, this is very
You're
important.
Gonna miss
I've heard this. I know this.
Okay. I don't know
The only way, And they've known this forever. The Vatican knew this. The Vatican, the Pope wanted to rule the world. They all knew it, but they couldn't do it. They all knew it, but they knew one way, but there's no way how they're going to pull it off.
What's the one way, man?
The only way is if there was some extraterrestrial threat from up above us. That would be the only way to have everyone embrace the one world government. They all knew that for years.
But it didn't work
That's
so far.
the plan. They could never
It's a
make
shitty
it
plan,
work.
though.
They didn't have the technology 500 years ago. The Vatican knew about it. They wanted it. And you go to the Vatican, you see paintings of like
Have you been there?
UFOs with aliens in them. And back when I used to believe in UFOs, but before I figured out that UFOs they want us to believe in UFOs. They're preparing us for a fake alien invasion. That's always been the plan. A one world government. The only way to do it is to get us to embrace it. And the only way to embrace it is from an alien attack. Ronald Reagan talked about it many times at the UN, CFR. He talked about it because wouldn't it make, he looked at all the leaders of the nation, of the world, and said, wouldn't it make our lives easier if we just had some kind of extraterrestrial threat? He said that shit. He said that in front of the UN. Like he's trying to get everybody into
I don't think he ever said that.
No, he said that many times. It's on video many times.
Ronald Reagan?
Ronald
Ever
Reagan.
heard of him, Brian? Ever heard
I
of him?
listened to a lot of his
Bush
speeches.
was vice president.
Right.
He was talking about, and there's many videos of him saying, what lies before us. He's in front of the nation doing a State of the Union address, saying what lies before us is the opportunity to forge a new world order, an order. Because he's talking about like
Do you
it's
think that
time.
means the space is fake?
Yes.
No. When people ask me, why would they fake space? It's always been about a fake alien attack. You can't have a fake alien attack.
I've never heard a politician ever talk
You can't
about
have a fake alien attack
though.
without space.
But I've never heard a politician
You
talk
have to have
about
space first. So they always, you know who promoted space more than anybody? Who wanted
Nazis.
Who wanted
Scientists.
Nazis?
Russians.
But before the Nazis, you know who wanted
Cavemen.
space?
Aztecs.
No, the Vatican.
Mayans.
The Vatican. They have all the biggest, they have all the astronomers. They're all Jesuit Vaticans, all of them. All the ones that are giving us this information about space, they all come from the Vatican. The Vatican has the most
the
powerful
Vatican said
telescope.
that the
You
Earth-
know what the name of the
Wait a
Vatican
minute. The
telescope
Vatican
is?
doesn't have the most powerful
Yes, they
telescope.
do. You know what its name is?
What
too?
is it
The
called?
most powerful telescope, the Vatican. And you know what name it is? I've
What?
done the research on YouTube.
on
I have the
YouTube.
links.
But
You know what the name of this? Do you know
Isn't
what the
the biggest
name
one in
of
Chile?
this? The most powerful telescope in the world. It's in the Vatican.
What
Do
is
you know
it?
the
What's the name?
Lucifer?
Lucifer's
What?
dick balls. Lucifer's dick and balls?
I've never seen this fucking telescope.
Yeah, it's legit, dude. I think the biggest one's in Chile. I think they have to be in high
It's in
altitude.
the Vatican.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the Vatican.
You guys didn't. So when people ask me, why would they fake all this shit?
Well, I don't think that's the biggest telescope,
This
Eddie.
is just a crazy theory.
It certainly is.
We're
Now,
talking
I've
a
never
theory.
heard-
It's
Here's the
funny.
thing, these
it's a funny theory.
But Eddie, these new Chile Very Large Array telescopes that they're creating are fucking gigantic, and they
This
take
guy's
over
no-
enormous pieces
Listen,
of land.
Listen, I
F-
was with you.
Google
I
the
was with
Very
you.
Large
Listen, I was with
Array.
you. It's called the Very Large Telescope. I watched the documentary with you at your house. It was like 2001, and
Yeah, I
it said in
think-
5 years
Yeah.
it's a documentary about them putting together the Very Large Telescope in Chile, and they're talking about by the year 2005 we're gonna have 3 telescopes linked with a computer to make us. We're gonna see further into space than ever before. None of that shit came.
What are you
There's-
talking about?
None
I
of
think-
that shit came.
Is that
They
up?
said,
Is the Very Large Array up yet? Nope.
It's a very
not up.
large telescope.
But I know they have
images.
they have them in Hawaii. What's
Isn't
that?
it weird? Isn't it weird that every space documentary, all the series, I had them all, Joe had them all, we watch them all the time. I try to remember all the shit about a neutron star and a super hypernova. I was balls deep. Me and Joe
Hypernova.
were balls deep into space. And then every now and then we'd watch this documentary after documentary. Morgan Freeman got the universe. We had
that
all
shit
that
was
shit.
good.
I DVR'd all that shit. Anything that said space.
Will Smith
I was
has a new
fucking
one.
ball. I thought I was better than people and shit because I knew so much about space. And every now and then I'd watch all that shit and wonder what. This is all cartoons.